we talk in left and right in terms of trying to appeal to people, and we majored over the last year on left wing people, progressive liberals, whatever character.
Fun to watch.
And we did it for the reason is that we didn't want Bitcoin to be something that was only understood by the right. I think it's really important, and I think it's taken a little bit longer for people from the left to understand it, but you notice they have, and then they come into Bitcoin and maybe they do what you do. They're like, well, fuck the politics, but I'm here for the Bitcoin. And so I think that's a really good thing. And now it's like, let's bring everyone together. Let's get Jason Meyer sat down with Ted Cruz.
Very funny.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Washington calcifies. It is pretty tribal there. We were at the Bitcoin Policy Summit, whatever was that, a couple weeks ago?
In the April 25th, I think it was.
How was it?
Oh, it was amazing. Amazing event. And so props to David, Zell, and Grant for putting together really a first of its kind event just on Bitcoin and why it matters, and with a range of policy people there, staffers, people from the agencies, people from the bureaucracy, and lawmakers. It's just what needed to happen is like a serious conversation, which was really just about Bitcoin with the DC establishment. It was terrific, but it's hard not to notice, even though like Biden's campaign manager was there, but the politicians who were there were, it was Tom Emmer, it was
Cynthia Lummis,
Ted Cruz.
The ones we already have.
The Republicans. There was former Congressman Tim Ryan.
Tim Ryan was
from
there.
The Democratic
That's
Party.
right. Tim Ryan was there.
He's part of the new Bitcoin Policy Institute Action.
That's right.
Group.
We did have representation, but it's like Bitcoin Policy Institute, I feel like, is fighting hard to not let it be captured and completely politicized, but they're fighting a really difficult battle because, when Elizabeth Warren is raising an anti-crypto army, then it's very hard for her colleagues to push back and say, actually, this thing might actually be actually helpful for some of our goals. It's naturally aligning left, right. And our hope is kind of that we keep it neutral, or not neutral, but really multifaceted in its appeal. And that the people who go extremely hard against it will overextend themselves and then extend beyond where the population is, and extend beyond where their members of their parties are and where the state government is, right? And because they're out there. But if I had to bet on it, I would say we fail and it becomes completely politicized. Just because you don't bet against the culture war, it swallows everything, right? We're going to do what we're going to do, try to fight it. You can see the reality is that Bitcoin does not align with the current culture war in any particular way at all. It's so much, I think, bigger than that.
There isn't a natural fit in the culture war because it's money. But what I have seen is that I think I can see where it will, because we see what DeSantis has done in Florida with regards to CBDCs. What was the law didn't they put a law in this? Like
they said they wouldn't accept CBDCs within Florida.
Yeah. Which I don't know what happens if the federal government decide to do one, what that challenge is. But I could see a scenario where multiple states push back on this. I mean, Texas would be another obvious one.
Yeah.
Wyoming. I think they understand and see the dangers of it. Whereas I could then see maybe more from the left, they would see they would want to argue for CBDCs in that, this is a better way to, distribute money to the poor, some kind of bullshit around that, some kind of lie. And then, as a rejection of CBDCs, the red states maybe say, no, what we need is Bitcoin. This is what we should be doing. So I could see it becoming that fight over, because it's such a fight. Like it's the desire to win the election has become more important than the desire to serve the electorate.
There is like a progressive economic backing to that idea, I would say, because Yanis Varoufakis, who is an economist and was part of, I think Syriza was the party in Greece, And he is supporting CBDCs. And he legitimately thinks that they can handle the privacy concerns. But it's because he believes in a green Keynesian solution to the economic issues, and one that he thinks will solve both the issues around climate change and also the economic issues around income inequality and being able to provide certain, services through government for the majority of people, or, those, like healthcare, education, housing. So I think you're right. I think that there is a political alignment amongst progressives for CBDCs, just seeing how influential Yanis Varoufakis is as the, founder of Progressive International and DiEM25. And, he's got people in his coalition like Noam Chomsky and Bernie Sanders. So, yeah, I think in that sense, you could definitely see, more Republicans supporting Bitcoin than Democrats, at least on the progressive side, just because there is an economic push towards CBDCs.
It's a shame they don't understand how wrong they are, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I just taught this class on the philosophy of money, and so I can't help but see it in these terms. I mean, the big debate about whether money is a medium of exchange and some real thing like a commodity, like gold or Bitcoin, that really provides an accounting mechanism to facilitate trade, and therefore kind of the ideal money would be money that maximizes the efficiency of exchange. And that sort of comes with a picture of history in which money arises naturally to solve the problem of coincident wants and facilitate trade. So it's this kind of natural thing that exists in the world. Even though all money is a fiction, it behaves as if it's a constraint on human behavior and something that coordinates human behavior. And then the picture of money as debt and as originated and controlled by governments in its essence. And that's something that's a social convention made up by us. It's just debt, like you owe me one. Mm-hmm. One what? And when you say what, you've invented money. And that picture of money as debt and as a mere social convention just leads naturally into MMT, I think. Mm-hmm. Because if it's just a social convention, then let's make it serve social ends. If the government is always responsible for creating money by its very nature, then why not let money serve social ends rather than pretending it's some kind of natural constraint on human behavior? And then once you're in MMT land and you think money is just debt and it's all made up and it's social conventions, then CBDCs seem completely natural as just a simple technological device to do money the best way you can do it, to make the best money. Just use the best technological solution, which would be the people who are responsible for money's existence, the government, and for its supply, should just control its distribution, its exchanges, et cetera, right? So there's a neat package here. And then that package can just get picked up and has been picked up by the left. It's not just, it serves our aims, but it's also, there's an entire philosophical history that rejects neoclassical economics, rejects and then you have up against that, Bitcoin is this resurgent barbaric relic of gold, but now in digital form. And it's like anathema. It's a narrative violation. It must be squashed, right? Because it challenges, it's like, wait a minute, we thought we'd have this figured out. Money is just debt. It's created by governments. What is this medium of exchange commodity thing coming back? That's disgusting. Kill it. Right? But it seems to threaten the powers that people who aspire to fix the world imagine themselves having. So it sparks a fear response, and I think we're seeing that.
It threatens a lot of things. It threatens control. It threatens power. It threatens narrative. It threatens careers. It's a threat to a lot of things, but it's a really unthreatening thing that you can just leave alone.
but you'll stay poor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
I think its main issue is I think Bitcoin has an image problem. Yeah. Full transparency when people are like, what do you do? I have a podcast. They're like, what's it about? I was like, oh, it's Bitcoin. Like I sometimes feel a bit embarrassed because not because I'm embarrassed about what I do. I know what they're going to think. Okay.
Yeah.
You're one of those guys.
We both experience this all the time.
In daily life.
Yeah. So I end up telling us
hide all my Bitcoin stickers in my apartment when people come over.
I end up telling a story. It's like, so I try and like reverse engineer. I say, like, it's an economics podcast, but I look at the economics, human rights, and politics through the lens of a fixed limit currency. And then, what do you mean? I was like, well, there's this like fixed limit digital currency, and that's really important. Like the most important part of it is that it's a fixed limit because you know what it's the government's printing money and that's causing inflation. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I was like, yeah, it's the government printing money because they just can. Like if you had a money printer in your bedroom, you could just print, would you? I was like, yeah. I was like, well, that's what the government does. But that essentially leads to theft from us. And this thing's called Bitcoin.
No wonder we don't have more listeners. Yeah. That's how you're selling it.
Well, it's the age-old debate. It's like, there'll become a time. It doesn't. I don't know if it's next week, next year, but we will rename the show and we'll take Bitcoin out of it because we want to create Bitcoiners, and we think we're serving Bitcoiners. We want to serve future Bitcoiners, and so
absolutely
taking it out and talking about interesting subjects and just mentioning Bitcoin occasionally might get people interested. The same reason people harass Joe Rogan. When are you going to have Saylor on Rogan? Because they really want a bunch of people orange pilled.
Right.
I mean, I think you're cringing for a good reason. That's your spidey sense telling you you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to create like a defensive reaction if you lead with Bitcoin. And why is that? Well, it's complicated, but it's the world we live in right now. I mean, that is the reality. It's the same for the energy space.
Yeah.
Right? How many of these companies that Margot and I talk to are like, yeah, we do flexible load. We bring the load to the generation. It's flexible compute. I don't know if you saw the Crusoe ESG report recently.
No.
But like they mention Bitcoin, but it's mostly just flexible data centers, and then Bitcoin is just sort of slides in there, and that's how they got it through the World Economic Forum, right? Which featured Crusoe as this technological kind of breakthrough for climate.
Look what data centers are doing for the planet.
So it's like across it's not just you in this field. It's me in philosophy of money. I mentioned Bitcoin just like it was like the last part of my course. Of course, it was the driving telos of the course. It was the end, but it's throughout. We know in order to speak to a broad audience, we have to hide the ball a bit. And we shouldn't have to, right? I mean, we shouldn't. Like, that's bizarre that we do, but it's the world we live in.